Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, and today I want to talk about something that's in a lot of my videos here on the channel, the Soundcraft Sapphyre recording console. I made a series of videos about this back when I first got the console, so make sure to check those out because they show a lot more of the individual details and close-ups of the console. Today I'm just going to be talking about the general reasons why I like the Soundcraft Sapphyre so much, and a little bit about how I use it and some of the features that I find to be the most useful on the console. The first thing I want to say is the Soundcraft Sapphyre, these were made in the early to mid 90s. So it's not a brand new console. I don't know if it'd be considered a vintage console, but it's certainly not new. It is built like a tank. It is a fully modular console, so servicing this console is a lot simpler than something like a Mackie 8 bus. Something like this modular console is a lot easier to service and work with, and in fact you can pull modules out of here if you need to service them and the rest of the console will remain fully functional. So that's a nice feature. Very well built console. It's also very heavy. This one is a 44 channel version with the built-in Patchbay, which is a huge selling point of this console for me anyway. The built-in Patchbay allows me to connect all my outboard gear and have a central location to access all of my analog gear and all the ins and outs of the console. They also made models without the built-in Patchbay that have XLR and 1/4-inch jack standard on the back. They also made smaller frames than this large 44 channel version that I have. So you can find smaller versions of the console with regular inputs and outputs on the back instead of the gigantic built-in Patchbay that this one has. So the build quality and reliability of the console itself is very good. The only real issue I had was with the two power supplies. This 44 channel version of the Sapphyre requires two power supplies, a CPS 450 and a CPS 550. Each of those run different sections of the console. At least the 17 volt rails do. The only issue I've ever had with this console were the power supplies. So I bought rebuilt versions or sent them off to be rebuilt. Now I have a working set of power supplies and a spare set, which is definitely something I would recommend if you're going to run an older used analog console that requires external power supplies. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite features of the console. One that I use all the time are the XFX switches on each of the channels. What that does is turn the channel fader that's normally the fader that's used to send out to tape or to an audio interface. It changes that into a post-fader effects send, but instead of sending out one of the aux sends, you're sending to buses or subgroups. It's a really cool feature because it allows me to create effects with parallel compression. In particular, I can maintain the stereo image and I can vary the amount of each signal that I'm sending to the parallel compression submix. Unlike on other 8 bus consoles, where the amount that's going to the subgroup is usually going to be the same as what's been sent to the left-right mix. So your only option is varying the amount of the compression submix against the dry signal that's going to the main left-right mix bus. So the XFX buttons on the Soundcraft Sapphyre give you a really flexible way to perform things like parallel compression. The Sapphyre also has really nice EQ. The modern Soundcraft Signature MTK series uses something that they call the Sapphyre EQ. Now, I'm not sure if it's exactly the same circuit, but the idea of the Sapphyre EQs is that when you're cutting a frequency, the bandwidth is much narrower than when you're boosting the same frequency or any frequency, so that you're able to cut frequencies that are problematic without affecting more of the frequencies around it, but you're able to boost frequencies with a wider bandwidth, which is going to be sweeter or a little bit more transparent to the ear, not as harsh, smoother, whatever you want to call it. So the Sapphyre EQ is a great EQ. I hardly use any EQ other than the EQs on this console. Now, a lot of people will talk about modifying the Sapphyre EQ so that the cut bandwidth is the same as the boost bandwidth. I don't really know why you would want to do that, but I guess that's personal choice. I'm not sure if a modification of the Sapphyre EQ in those newer signature MTK consoles would work at all. The mods that I've heard about were for the original Sapphyre, like this one here, and not necessarily for those USB mixers that they make now. Another really useful and interesting feature of the Soundcraft Sapphyre is the floating bus architecture. What that means is I can take any of these 44 channels here on the console, press a button at the top of the channel strip, and turn that strip into a subgroup. The subgroups are labeled at the bottom of each channel as to which subgroup that channel is going to turn into if you press the sub button at the top. So that's pretty cool and flexible in a way. It also means that you can EQ your subgroups. And you also have gates. I've used that a lot. I've done parallel compression on a subgroup with the Sapphyre, and then I gated that subgroup, which was really useful in this case because I was doing some parallel compression on just toms, and I didn't want that parallel compression subgroup even to be there unless the toms were playing. So I just set up the built-in gates on the Sapphyre channels, which at the time were acting as subgroups, and so I was able to gate that parallel compression subgroup or submix there in the mix. So it only opened the gate when the tom fills came in. Worked fantastic, and I've actually used that quite a bit since then as well. The one last feature I'm going to talk about in this video is a feature that's part of the stereo channels on the Sapphyre. That's these blue faders right here. And that is the width control, which is variable from mono all the way to huge. I like this feature so much that I made a specific video about just the stereo width huge control on Soundcraft Sapphyre. So I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. I've made a lot of videos about this console in the past, including one that has a lot of details and functions and features of the console up close, so make sure to check out those videos if you want to learn more about the Soundcraft Sapphyre recording console. Now I'm going to show you some mixes that I've made with the Soundcraft Sapphyre recording console in various videos here on the channel over the last few years. So here are some bits and pieces of some mixes that I made using the Sapphyre. I'll also put links in the video description to the original video so you can see all the elements that went into these mixes besides just the console itself.
Hiding out your window, wondering how I got here. Beholding your lovely face, your light surrounds my soul. Oh, how it come this far only to be told that I'm wicked, wicked and alone. Yes, I'm wicked, but not wrong. Falling down, can't get up again. Faith won't give us away. Survival, time won't wait for all. Is innocence still so far away? Letting up is coming down. This pent up energy setting off on this course again. Setting up and tearing down again. The mountains don't care.
In my personal and professional opinion, the Soundcraft Sapphyre is the last great large format recording console that Soundcraft ever made. It's a fantastic console that sounds great and is very high quality. It's also really heavy, so if you have one of these guys, make sure you have some people to help you move it, because it's kind of a beast, but it definitely sounds wonderful. It has a lot of features that you don't find on just any recording console. So the Soundcraft Sapphyre is the centerpiece of my entire studio. It has enough inputs and outputs. I mean, it's got 44 tape returns on the thing. There's one for every channel. So I can connect my analog recorders and my DAW audio interface inputs and outputs all to the console at the same time. I have the built-in Patchbay, and it sounds really good, nice and big, wide, professional sound, really flexible EQ, and some features that you don't find in every console out there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I also hope that you'll check the links in the video description for other videos that relate to this video, as well as ways to help support this channel. I hope each and every one of you out there has an excellent and wonderful day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond. Whatever it is you're having, have a good one. Thanks so much for watching.
Hiding out your window, wondering how I got here. Beholding your lovely face, you like